Welcome to Hack Your Happiness.
When I was 20 years old, that I was going to drop out of college to go pursue being a cook, basically, and move to New York. It was only met with like, what are you doing?
Are you a teen or adult looking for more happiness in every day and ways to connect with people in your life?
You've come to the right place. Hack Your Happiness is a podcast designed to bring you the behind the scenes of what brings iconic individuals happiness, plus their life hacks.
I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Anastasia.
And we're the two teens behind Small Bits of Happiness.
We're interviewing Olympic athletes, entrepreneurs, celebrities, and more.
Throughout all of our episodes, you'll find great conversations, hacks that you can take away and try in your life, inspiration, as well as unique and surprising insights. Today, we're speaking with Kelsey Barnard Clark. Kelsey is a born and raised Gulf Southerner from Dothan, Alabama. She was the fifth woman and first Southerner to win the title of Bravo's Top Chef, the sole fan favorite following her season 16 win, and a 2024 James Beard Award nominee for Best Chef South. Kelsey got her start in the food industry working for a high-end caterer, and catered her first solo wedding at age 15. After graduating from the Culinary Institute of America, she worked both savory and pastry for several Michelin Star restaurants in New York City, including Café Bouloud under Gavin Kazin and Dovetail under John Fraser. Her signature Southern French cuisine is inspired by family recipes and classic French techniques. In 2012, Casey moved back home to open her catering company, Kelsey Barnard Catering. Today, she runs her catering company and her restaurant, KBC, in historic downtown Dothan, Alabama. And she also teaches virtual classes, taking her chef talents on the road and appearing and cooking at events as often as possible. In 2021, her debut cookbook, Southern Grit, hit the shelves. Kelsey also recently signed a 2-book deal with Chronicle Pegged to Entertaining, due out in 2024. In addition to being known for her skills in the kitchen, Kelsey is also an avid gardener. She's passionate about all things interior design and a devoted wife and mom. She's got 2 young children, Monroe and Evelyn June, and 3 dogs, 15 chickens, and a cat. Welcome, Kelsey.
Thank you.
We're so excited to be
Now 3 dogs. Here's the third one.
Aww. How old is your new dog?
She is 1. She's a puppy.
Oh, so cute.
Rescue dogs, and apparently now we rescue a lot of animals. We have a cat now too. But anyways, I got her when she was just turning 1.
Oh, that is so sweet. She looks so cute. So you are such a successful chef with a culinary business. But take us back to the beginning. How did your journey start, and where did your love for cooking begin?
I've always loved cooking, so I definitely have one of those bizarre type of starts where I just, my husband's even said this before. He's like, most people don't just know what they want to be their whole life. And that pretty much has always been what I didn't really know I wanted to be a chef. But I definitely knew that I wanted to be involved in entertaining and cooking in some way, shape, or form really early on.
That is amazing. And I think it's so cool how, you've always been passionate and loved cooking, and you've carried that passion through all the way to where you are now and built so many successes, won competitions. It's amazing to see how, as children and teenagers, we can live out our childhood dreams. And I think that that's amazing.
Yeah,
so inspiring.
definitely.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's one of my biggest things is to, obviously try to be a great example for young people, but also for people like you two that are young and you got your whole lives ahead of you, to know that if I am by no means not pushing college. I'm just saying, if school doesn't work out for you, that doesn't mean you're a failure. If you're not great at one thing, that doesn't mean that you're not a success. Just find something that you really love, get really good at it, and, you could be successful with it. I was terrible at school, and that was really hard growing up, because that's the only thing you have to be good at when you're young. So it's kind of, sports weren't my thing. School wasn't my thing. So I try to just really be very loud about that one, that maybe I firmly believe everyone has a talent in them. You just have to find it until you get it out.
That is
Definitely.
so beautiful. And
I love that.
Yeah, I love that, because I think so many times as teenagers, we can feel so upset if we see other people succeeding at sports or school, or knowing what they, are good at in their place, but sometimes it can be really difficult. But, hearing from you and knowing that some interests that we have, we can actually carry them through into our adulthood is such like a reassurance, I think. And it's possible if you're really passionate about something, you can become really successful with it.
Definitely. I mean, I think it's so much easier to be successful at something that you love and you want to keep doing every day. And when challenges come at you, you want to keep pushing through because it's something that you love. And it becomes harder to do that when you're just not really that interested in what you're working on. So speaking about challenges, you have done so many amazing and iconic things. What has been your biggest challenge throughout your entire journey, and how did you overcome this?
I would say all of my biggest challenges have been self-inflicted always. I am my own worst enemy and also the person that keeps me, people ask me a lot, like, who's your biggest who do you compete against the most, or like, who's your biggest whatever? And I'm like, it's always myself. Getting out of my head and trying to overcome all the thoughts going on and the desire and obsession to be perfect at everything is not a healthy thing and not a good thing. So I would say the biggest obstacle for me, I had a very, very bad eating disorder. And I have a chef, so it started very young, but then it reared its ugly head the most when I was in culinary school, ironically. And I think just basically all of that, just not killing myself and beating myself up at all times and trying to just consistently be a good person, make good choices, learn from my mistakes. Even in my age now, I make a lot of mistakes. And I think that's always the biggest challenge. Of course, there's some actual real hard challenges as well, but truly I say the hardest one is getting over yourself is the hardest one.
I agree. I think we're all like have the ability to be our own greatest cheerleader and our own greatest enemy, like you mentioned. And so I think, hearing how obviously there's so many challenges in this world, but so many of them come from ourselves. But the thing about that is that we can control those challenges. If we put them upon ourselves, we can, kind of help ourselves get out of it if we're aware of that fact that, we can control that. And I think that's where a lot of teenagers struggle, is we don't realize how much control we actually have over our lives. And I know this is definitely something that I've struggled with is, I can actually change that and I can actually make myself feel better and pull myself out of that emotion. So I think, that's something that is a big pressing issue in our lives, is that a lot of our issues come from ourselves.
Most definitely. And I think it's amazing to have some of the self-awareness that you have had to know, this is because of me. Let me try to fix this in a manner that, is not too hard on myself, but is still solving the problem. So how were you able to overcome these challenges?
Look, I'm still learning. Truly, I tell myself the best thing anyone can be, and the thing that I try to always tell myself is to forever be a listener and forever be a learner. And there's one of my favorite quotes is defense down, curiosity up. And the whole point of that is never get offended and never get defensive. Stop and be curious, ask questions back. So I think for me, that's the biggest thing that I've tried very hard to change, is like, stop being defensive, stop being offended. And if someone says something to you about something you're doing they don't like, or about, something that they're concerned about, ask questions, be curious enough to then fix it. And I think that that's something that I've applied with trying to get over the things and just to be a better person, is just try to learn, like just figure it out, read and listen to podcasts, like do all of those things. And I will say for me, routines are very important. That's not for everybody. I think some people thrive with routines. Some people feel like they're going crazy. But for me, waking up very early and reading and having quiet time and journaling, and then exercise and eating healthy, all of those things for me are very crucial. But I would say reading is a big one for me.
Definitely. I mean, I think reading is so amazing because it's like you feel like you're experiencing something and you're, growing and learning, but you're also like having some downtime. You're also relaxing. And when you're doing that, you can feel energized but also calm at the same time. And I know I said this before, but I love that quote so much. I feel like it's so much harder to learn and be open to things when you're being defensive, when you're trying to say, no, what I'm doing here is correct and you're wrong. But when you kind of step back and you say, no, it's okay that my work isn't perfect, because nothing will ever be perfect. And the person who's just giving you criticism is just trying to help. And by being curious, I think there's always going to be more benefits than losses.
For sure. And I think that the most, with that exact same quote and motto, the most defensive person and a person that I truly just cannot work with, I've realized, is someone who's defensive. It's truly when I'm hiring people, or even, really when I'm hiring people, or if I'm thinking about promoting them to management, the first thing I look at is, are they defensive when they're being corrected? Now, of course, it's very important how you deliver, and especially when you're delivering something negative to someone or asking them to change, you have to be very kind and calm. So we obviously start by the way that you're approaching it. But I've learned, if anybody asks me, like, what's the one trait you absolutely you can't work with it? And for me, it's someone who's defensive, because that means they're never going to be willing to listen, and they're never going to be willing to change. And there's nothing I can do with that kind of person.
Definitely.
I love that so much, because I think that, life is a constant journey of growth and changing. And so when you're defensive to criticism, and you're defensive to feedback, and you're defensive to even like learning more about yourself and changing yourself, I mean, we're never done growing as people, and that's the thing. And so I really love how, you say when you're hiring people or promoting people, you look for those traits of willingness to grow and not being too defensive, because I think if we're stuck in our ways, then we'll never become perfect. Well, not perfect, that ideal, best possible version of ourselves. There's no way to be perfect, and I think that's a big thing. It's hard to accept that no matter what, we'll never be perfect. And I think hearing what you said reminds me a lot of myself. I also thrive from a routine, and I thrive from waking up early, and I think it's funny how different people, different things like fuels them and brings them that sense of control as well as ability to grow and progress in life.
Yes. I mean, and listen, it's not for everybody. I'm not saying that you have to wake up early to be successful. That's it. I am so, I try to really preach, like, you do whatever's best for you. Just because I do something, I am not going to be the person that's going to try to convince you to wake up early if you're not a morning person. I would say get your sleep and sleep in, because if that's not going to bring you joy by getting up early, don't do it. But that I definitely have really I try to really hone in on things of like and write it down, and then make it habits of what are the things that bring me joy and make my days more successful mentally, physically, all of the things. What can I do to set myself up for the best day I can have? So that's sort of the way I look at every day.
I love that. That's so amazing.
Definitely.
And it's those small little things that add up so quickly to, becoming happiness habits and becoming habits of daily routine and stability, as well as, like making ourselves feel good and happy.
And I totally agree with, if you don't like waking up early in the mornings, I mean, I know it's hard because as teenagers, we need to wake up early for school.
Yeah.
But, if you're in the opportunity of maybe sleeping a bit more, but then you're able to perform better because you're happier, you're more motivated, it's so much better than to wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning and then afterwards you just can't do anything properly because you're not in the right headspace, you're not motivated, you're really, really tired. And I think you're able to perform so much better if you're happier and you're better rested and you're just doing what works best for you.
Exactly. And I think on the note of, following our dreams and growing and doing what makes us happy, a lot of teenagers are interested in baking or cooking and, maybe considering also pursuing a career or learning more about it. So what skills do you think are important to being successful in the culinary industry, especially for people who are just starting out?
I would say for me, you have got to know that you're going to be working hard the rest of your life. I think in every career, you're going to be working hard the rest of your life, but I think specifically in the one that I'm in and in the culinary field, what I mean is like you will physically be working hard the rest of your life. And it's a career where you have to be forever interested and curious and passionate. That's how you become successful. You will never just coast. You will never just relax. You will never have a time where you're like, oh, I've made it where I need to be, and now I'm just going to chill. It doesn't happen. So I think that the first thing I would ask people is like, are you obsessed with cooking? Are you obsessed? Are you truly just cannot live without it, because that's what's really going to drive you at the end of the day is your passion. So you have to make sure that is a very strong passion, or else I don't know if you'll make it. That's truly it.
I think that's important because, being a teenager, there's a lot of choices that we have to make, and knowing what's kind of the road to success and what that might look like and what a career might look like. And so that's really helpful to hear, I think, to people who are interested, because
I think that when you love something so much, it's just so much easier to work at it your whole life.
It's all about that passion.
Totally. And if you feel like, oh, you're interested in it now, but you know that you're gonna fall out of it in a bit, maybe it's not the best choice for you to do. But if it's just something that just continuously fuels you and you feel like this is, your calling, then totally doing something like starting a culinary career, I think, is totally what's meant for you.
And so many children, teenagers, and even adults may hear that following their dream and doing what they love and are passionate about will be unfruitful. Have you ever dealt with anything like this?
Oh, Lord. Yeah. I mean, listen, I was in college at a very traditional conservative school in Alabama. And when I said, when I was 20 years old, that I was going to drop out of college to go pursue being a cook, basically, and move to New York, it was only met with like, what are you doing? Because I don't know, now the culinary world is, and I mean like it today, it's definitely, there's so many opportunities and there's so much options of what you can do and where you can do it. But, when I started, which I'm not that old, but even 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, it was not lucrative. And, what that looked like really was that you were going to be in the kitchen, grueling hours, cooking all the time. And I, definitely got a lot of questions of like, again, I'm from the South, very conservative Southerners, like, well, how are you going to ever get married if you do this? How are you going to ever have kids? All of those kind of questions, because it is, I mean, it's your whole world and your whole life. So it certainly was not met with like, congrats, we're so happy for you and excited. It was more, she's crazy. She's lost it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely now we have so many more people celebrating chefs and saying, they have such culinary genius. And I think that definitely chefs and cooks are a lot more respected now. And it must have been really difficult, especially from coming from the South, where people would, view all of that as so hard to start a family, because definitely when you're working such long hours, it is hard. But definitely if you see something like this as such a huge passion and something you want to pursue, you should definitely follow it, even if you view it and you value it so much and it's a top priority.
I think it's incredible how, despite you said like that was all you were hearing from your family back at home, was this like, why are you doing this? How are you gonna, have a family and have children? How did you find the motivation, and what motivated you to keep going despite that?
Oh, well, I've always really loved to piss off people who tell me no. So that's, that was just who I am. I'm definitely have always been very, or a little bit at least, rebellious. So I think truly the biggest gift and blessing was people telling me you can't do it, because all I wanted to do was prove them wrong. And it just fueled my fire. And there was no way I was moving home. There was no way I was dropping out. There was no way I was quitting. And I was going to do the hardest thing and be the best at it and do the longest hours and get there first. That became my fuel. And I think that you always have two ways to look at haters. They will never go away. The more successful you are, the more you get. The more happy you are, the more people want you to be miserable. It's just life. And I think that the best thing you can do is like use their fire, and you be the fuel that literally you just stomp it out because you just don't care. And that's definitely where I am now. It only makes me want to be better the more people tell me not to.
I absolutely love that perspective, because I think everybody has, whether it's from friends, from family, that little voice in the back of your head saying you can't do it or you're not going to be a success. That perspective of there's always going to be haters, but you can either give into the fire or you can use it to prove them wrong and make yourself, grow is such an incredible way to look at it, because everybody is faced with challenges. But I think what helps, what differentiates people who are successful versus those who just kind of go into a victim mentality and struggle is using that to fuel your passion and your motivation. And so I really love that, and it's very inspiring.
I agree. Are there any specific organizations, communities that you found particularly helpful when you were just starting out in the culinary industry?
Yeah, I would say this to anyone. I would say this to y'all, no matter what you end up doing, lean in on your hometowns, y'all. The people that raised you want to see you be successful. So that is why there's such a movement right now, especially in the culinary world, of people going to these small towns and they're booming, right? And that certainly was what I did. But they love you, and they people that are in your town and they know that you're from there, they're going to support you. And I think that that's not something to overlook.
I love that.
Definitely.
Just if you don't find support in one space, you can look for it in a different space. I think that, being creative in the ways that you can find support and looking towards your hometown, even if you don't want to, only be in that area, but realizing that there's people there who care about you and they've seen you from a young age is really powerful.
And the best part is about living in a modern day world is that you don't need to be living in that place to stay in touch and to have that support. Like, you can maybe call them every once in a while and talk to them, and it's just so amazing how we live in such a modern world where you're able to stay in touch with someone even from a distance.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and there you can connect with people. I try to look at every opportunity and everything I do as an opportunity to connect and build another community, right? And sometimes, I try to look at everything in the way I behave anywhere I go is like, would this leave a positive mark or a negative mark on these people? Sometimes it's not positive and I make mistakes, but that's fine. But the bottom line is, especially I'm selling books. Would these people would they want to buy my book because they want to support me? So I do think that especially young, just remember, that you're already making an impression, because I had my principal of my high school and two of my teachers at my restaurant the other day. And he said, I just remember in high school, you were always so kind to everyone. I was like, well, that is the biggest compliment I could get. And I think back, like at 16, I just wanted to be popular, right? So that's why I was nice to people. But thank God, like literally, I think to myself, if I was a mean girl or if I had really been awful to people, they wouldn't want to be supporting me right now. I wouldn't want to support me either. Yes, maybe I'd changed and whatever, but I think that everyone has to be responsible for themselves and remember that you are making a mark everywhere you go, and especially now, unfortunately and fortunately, doesn't go away. No one is going to forget. They're going to document it, and it is important just to try to be the best person you can be, and remember that you're making connections that maybe later you'll really need, whether it's that you need somebody to lean on or whatever. It's always good to know that you have people.
Exactly.
Definitely.
And I think, you're never going to regret being kind to people, helping them out, whether it's, maybe they're struggling or maybe it's just being nice to people generally. I think, we won't regret it. You never know what's going to happen a few years down the road. And like you said, when you were 16, you weren't thinking all the way ahead to people dining at your restaurant one day. But in retrospect, it's such like a wow, I can see how it all kind of comes together in conclusion.
Yeah, and it never hurts you to be kind. And honestly, sometimes maybe a small, insignificant act of kindness from you is going to make somebody's whole day and will really change their idea of you. And I think that just treating everybody with kindness and trying to, see the best and the light in people is just a great kind of mindset and
Exactly.
way.
And there's a lot of like negativity in our world, I think, especially these days. And so being a positive light, being kind to people, spreading joy, spreading happiness, even in small ways, really does contribute a lot, especially when people might be struggling or stressed or unhappy.
You never know. You literally never know what someone's going through.
Exactly. And food always brings us happiness. So that's definitely a great contribution. What are your top 3 tips for teenagers to find support in doing what they love?
I would say it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, but the more eager you are to learn and curious you are, people are going to flock to you. Everyone who is great and successful, all we want to do is give it back and teach someone else, right? So if you are open and kind and asking questions and eager, you will flock the people that need to flock to you. The most successful people with what you want to do are going to want to come to your attention. So I would say the biggest thing is like always be curious and willing to learn, work really hard. Never, ever, ever, ever think that's somebody else's job. And even if it is someone else's job, you can do it too. Don't ever think you're ever too good for any positions. And then I would lastly say, like, be incredibly humble. That kind of goes with the curiosity and learning. It's all in the same kind of field, but don't ever think that you know it all. You're too smart, or I love when someone comes in and they act like they know nothing. Even when, and what's even more interesting is when I found out that they're very experienced. Like, wow, that is just really incredible that you let me completely teach you all these things. And he was like, well, you could have showed me something different. Who knows? That is the kind of person I'm going to invest all of my time in. So yeah, all those.
Being open to learning is one of the best skills and mindsets that someone can have, because it just shows how open and how you're willing to take in anything that is around you and apply that to become the best version of yourself and to keep growing. I love all the tips you gave. I think they are so amazing.
I love them too, and I think that when you're a teenager or at any age really, trying to find a supportive community, supportive peers, supportive friends, being humble and being like down to earth, not thinking that you're superior to others for any rhyme or reason, really comes off like friendly and approachable. And that's so important when trying to make connections, because people don't want to spend time with people who think that they're above it all. I think we want to support people who are willing to learn and willing to take away information from us, as well as contribute information to us.
Totally. And I think at any age you can be learning, even if maybe it's somebody younger than you knows something. And I know sometimes we feel as if when we're older we know more and the younger people know less than us, but I think it's often really important to also listen to all types of people, no matter their age and like no matter what, because everybody can have something that they can add, and value isn't just from a certain group of people. It can be found anywhere you look.
Exactly.
There's always, and sometimes the biggest thing that you learn when you're willing to learn is, for me especially, I love paying attention even more so to someone that I do not like technically or don't enjoy spending time around. I really study those people. Like, why did I hate working for that person? Those are the people who have been the most impressionable on me, is like, I hated working for this person. What was it? And that's how I become the opposite. How do I become someone that people want to work for, respect, want to be around? How do you become that? You can also learn from people that are doing exactly what you don't want to be doing.
I absolutely love that technique. That is absolutely perfect advice, and it makes sense in a way that we wouldn't think of that, but when you say it, it makes sense. Learn from other people's mistakes and learn from, I don't like the way that they're doing that, so I'm going to do the opposite of it, or I don't like the way that they treated me, so I'm never going to treat people in that way. I think is so important in all elements of life, in business, in relationships, in even like academics, in following our passions or interests. I think everything, there's always like an opposite to where we want to be, and kind of just that balance is so important.
Definitely. And learning from other people's mistakes is so important, because if they're not treating people the right way, that's something that they would need to recognize for themselves. But if you can recognize it and make sure that you don't do that as well, you can keep and create even more amazing connections that those people would have missed out on.
Yeah. Do you have any specific like inspirations that maybe when you were first starting out inspired you, like specific chefs or maybe books?
Absolutely. And still am really obsessed with Oprah and Martha Stewart. I think it is so wonderful to have these idols. Not in an obsessive way, not in like I want to wear their clothes way, but in a way of like, I studied them. I didn't realize at the time I was studying them, but I 100% was. I watched Oprah every single day because I thought to myself, like, gosh, she's so loved, right? Everyone wants to hear what she has to say. Why? Right? Why does everyone literally tune in when Oprah was on back in the day? I watched it every day after school, I watched it because I thought she taught me so much, and I loved the show. But now I look back on it all the time of like, what was it that was so irresistible about her that everyone wanted to buy what she told us to buy, to hear what she had to say. We did anything she said. Same with Martha Stewart. And I think it's wonderful to have these people that, get the fan away out of it and think of it more of like, who do you want to be like? I'm not saying become them, but who is on the path that you want to be on, that is good at it? And now watch them, learn from their mistakes, listen to them, let them be your teacher and your mentor. You don't have to have a mentor that your mentor, and all of my really strong mentors are people I've never even met. So I think it's very important to have people to look up to.
I think that is so brilliant, because oftentimes, no matter what we're interested in, whether it's business or being a chef or being an author, etc., I think there's idols and people we look up to, and then we limit ourselves. We're like, oh, I could never meet them, or oh, I could never be quite as famous as them. They're not going to mentor me, because they're on TV and I'm just watching them from my living room. But realizing that there's so much we can learn, especially these days when you can read books about them or even buy them. You can watch documentaries about people. There's so much.
The world is your oyster now. You can find out anything you want to find out. There's a million things you can figure out. So it's a great time. I mean, it's definitely a double-edged sword, but there's more things that you can access now more than ever, which is a very big gift.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. There's so much. So just finding someone who's in your area of interest and learning from them and being inspired by them is, I think, very, very smart to do.
And I think also when you're coming into situations, for example, if you're looking up to Oprah, who is such an amazing idol, but just thinking in this situation, what would Oprah do? And just kind of handling it in a manner that you think she would, almost mirroring that, so you can kind of start adding those aspects into your life, but with your own personality and way of life in it.
There's a book I'm currently reading. It's like I said, I do these studies or lessons. It's always self-help. Sometimes it's religious. It just depends on what I'm going through and what I want to be focusing on. So right now I'm reading a book called Badass Habits, and it's all about it's remarkable and it's so interesting. But basically what this person tells you is, who do you want to be? What is it in your life that you don't like? And who do you really look up to that you're like, this is what I want to be like? And pretend you are them. Act as if they would act. Do what they would do for 30 days to break your habits of being the other version you don't want to be. And then you will become that best version of yourself. And I 100% practice that. When there's a habit I want to break or a habit I want to pick up, then I try to picture myself as being someone else. And there's even a book I have on my coffee table. It's What Would Dolly Do? Dolly Parton. Everyone loves Dolly Parton, right? And it's like every circumstance, before you overreact or you don't react at all, you can stop and think, okay, I know who I want to become. I know what I'm working towards. What would these people that I find really great to be really great people and very successful, what do I think they would do in this situation? And it absolutely helps me when I'm got my boss hat on and my leader hat on, because I definitely struggle sometimes with like, what am I supposed to do? I don't know. I'm supposed to be telling everyone what to do and I don't know. And the only way I can kind of like definitively come up with a answer sometimes is to stop and like remove myself from the situation and say, what would I tell if I was talking to someone else about this scenario? One of my best friends, what would I tell her to do? Because I always give great advice. It's just not always do I listen to myself when it's coming into me. Or what would Martha Stewart do in this situation? Or what would Oprah or Dolly Parton do in this situation? And then it's like, boom, go. Right answer. Now, of course, sometimes it doesn't work, but I will say it definitely makes you feel confident to just move forward. So I think it is so important to have people that you look up to and want to be like. I think it's very important because we're all learning and growing and trying to better ourselves every day, hopefully. And we need those reminders.
Definitely.
I think that is an amazing practice. It sounds like a really great book with some really amazing ideas in it. And I think that, finding someone and kind of emulating them is great, as well as emulating who we want to be. Think about, who do I want to be? What's a habit I want? And what's a habit that I have that I kind of want to get rid of? And replacing negative habits with positive habits, I think, is such a brilliant tactic. And I mean, we've researched a lot, and it takes like roughly 66 days to build a habit, which really isn't that long.
No, and I think that 9 times out of 10 mistakes and things that we shouldn't have done were just because of a habit we had. Whether that was, I'm in that habit of eating sugar too much, and now I weigh 15 pounds more than I want to weigh. So you got to break that habit, right? Or that's I try to look at everything rather than thinking this is a problem, I have a problem, my life is over. Look at it that way. This is just a habit I need to break. It takes 30 to 60 days to do that. I can do anything for 30 to 60 days. And then once you do it, it's gone. Bye.
Exactly.
Truly, never taking yourself too seriously is the best gift you could give yourself. And remembering, just because you were someone yesterday does not mean you're that person today. Every day is an opportunity to become who you want to be. And that's it. Don't live in the yesterdays. Don't live in the past. Don't be scared of your mistakes. Learn from them. Tomorrow is a new day. Thank God we get that gift. Use it.
I absolutely love that so much, because we can feel so stuck at times and so trapped in our own selves, and like, what am I supposed to do? I'm doing all these things, but I don't like it. I don't even know who I am. But realizing that, you know what? I'm going to wake up and I'm going to start something different. I'm going to practice a new habit. In a month or two, I'm going to have this firmly like embellished into my lifestyle and my daily routine. And just having that knowledge is so powerful. It does take work. You have to be committed to saying, hey, I'm going to actually change this. If nothing changes, then nothing changes. You have to actually be committed to it. But I think if you want something to change, you can do it. It's in your control. You just have to want it.
Definitely. I know that you definitely, as a chef, you're so busy. You're constantly working, and taking downtime is so important to ensure that we don't burn out and that we still find motivation. So what is your favorite way to take some downtime?
Oh yeah, this is part of my routine. It is, I never ever anymore say I don't have time for that, because I know what happens when I don't make time for things that are crucial to my health. So for me, this is as part of my schedule as my meetings are. It's there. So a few things for me that is crucial is exercise. I absolutely have to move my body 3 to 5 times a week. I already am moving around a lot. So I know for myself, and this is not for everyone, this is what makes me feel my best. I really love lifting weights and going to a gym. It makes me feel very accomplished. It makes me feel great. So I do that at least 3 to 5 times a week. Being outside and being in the sun and literally being in nature grounds me. It is of the utmost importance that I'm spending, even when it's cold, spending some time just sitting outside or, in the yard with my chickens, with my dogs, with my kids, just something on a walk. You choose. I think nature is important. And then lastly, keeping an incredibly organized, tidy home. I cannot work at all with mess. It truly sends me in a spiral when things aren't just not messy, but I want fresh flowers. They bring me so much joy. So the things that I maintain those things. And then when I am having a bad day, when I could not control the things that happened to me in the day, like my ice machine at work broke and these 2 people quit and I need to fire someone, all of which I have zero control over. When those type of things happen, I go home early. I'm going to leave work early because I'm going to go focus on some things that can change this scenario. And those things, the instant gratification things I do a lot is I go buy myself flowers, or I get a pedicure, or I get a massage. Instant gratification. And the things that I do not do that I definitely used to do at times was, which definitely does not apply to y'all, I need to have a glass of wine. I'm having a bad day. Does not make the day better, guys. Let me just tell y'all. And eating something really bad, eating a pint of ice cream or a bowl of chocolate or a bag of gummies because I'm in a bad mood and I want something that's going to make me feel good makes me feel worse, right? So I always try to focus on doing something healthy and that's going to get my endorphins up or calm me to instantly get a good feel.
Totally. I mean, I personally love the flowers one. Flowers are so beautiful, and they're such a great way to make your day a little bit better. And yeah, I think those are such great hacks. And totally, I mean, you can't always be having a pint of ice cream every day when you're having a bad day.
It's all about, I think,
Totally.
moderation and all about balance. And,
Yeah.
you know, you can't control everything, but you can control how you react and respond
Totally.
to everything.
I mean, totally, the outside of the environment is stuff you can't control. I mean, you can't control if you need to fire someone. You can't control if 2 people quit in the same day. But what you can control is how you react about it, if you're calm or if you're angry, and then how you treat yourself afterwards. And I think that that can make a really huge difference.
It's so easy to beat ourselves up on days where things are just not going our way and just be stuck in our upsetness, but that's not going to help. It's not going to make anything better. The only thing that will make things better is pulling ourselves out of that, you know, negative mindset. So I think it's best to just do something that brings us happiness and take a break, take some downtime, and
Definitely.
schedule that into our routine as well, even when we're not having a bad day. Schedule in, you know, going for a massage or getting your nails done or going for a hike or spending some time with your kids in your garden. Like, it's all about finding those things to maintain your
Totally.
happiness, as well as having certain things that are like your go-tos when you're just kind of having an off
Definitely.
day.
Well, speaking of little small things that we can do to make ourselves feel happier, what is one thing that you do in your everyday routine other than, you know, working out and stuff, to make yourself feel a little bit happier?
Yeah, what brings you a small bit of
Yeah.
happiness every day?
Oh gosh, a lot of things really. I mean, I'll tell you one thing I've also learned about myself. I feel super happy and really great when I do something for someone else, something small every day. One of the things I started doing back in October, it's just so stupid, really. It was so silly and stupid, but it brings me so much joy. Is I in my office at work, it's, you know, offices suck, y'all. They just suck. They're so boring and they're so and we talk about bad stuff in there and it's always serious. So that's not me. I'm not a very serious person. I don't like boring things. And so I redid our office back in October. And one of the biggest things I've done is I fill up a candy bowl almost every day. So I'll like go to the drugstore, go to the grocery store, go to the dollar store, and I'll get like silly candy or fruit or something. And I leave surprises for the managers and the kitchen crew. Stuff like that. That brings me immense joy to bring other people joy. And I think it's the most withstanding one is I know that I'm fueling people's soul in some way. And that truly is, or my children, same thing, my children and my husband is like, what can I do that can help them today and bring them some kindness? And that's going to overflow and overflow and overflow. And it's going to last a lot more and a lot longer than the 2 seconds it took me to pour candy into a bowl. So that's a daily for me.
That
Yeah,
is
I
so
love that so
sweet.
much.
That is so sweet. And I mean, we've done a lot of research as well behind the science of happiness, and helping other people is totally something that, you know, not only brings them a small bit of happiness, but brings us a small bit of happiness as well. And so I think that's a great little hack. Just finding something small you can do for people daily, whether that's maybe giving them some candy or holding the door open or helping them pack their lunch if they're in a rush in the morning or making them breakfast. I think all those little things that we do that don't seem like a big deal actually bring us a lot of joy, and seeing them happier because of us, I mean, that's definitely a source of joy.
Yeah, and I think that's another way as well. It's like that's the way I look at haters, and that's the way I look at people like that. Is like, what a miserable life and a miserable person you must be that your aim is to bring people down and to bring sadness in people's lives. So think about that. Feel bad for them more than you're angry at what they're saying. So that's another way to look at it as well.
I absolutely love that
Yeah.
because it's true. People who take down others intentionally, that's just kind of a reflection of their own misery and their own insecurity, and likely almost jealousy. Maybe they're upset that, you know, you got something that they didn't. Maybe you're more successful in their eyes, or you have a better routine, a better something. They're just jealous. And I think that this is something that happens in high school and in middle school, as well as
all that careers are and worlds are is one giant high school lunchroom and cafeteria. It will follow you everywhere. You will always have the mean girls. You will always have the jerk guys. You will always have the people that no one was nice to. It's always going to be like that in rooms, but you're always capable of turning that around. And I think and you're always responsible and in charge of how you react to it, and how it affects you. So I think that that's something that you can learn right now, because it is always more intense in high school. It's always more aggressive. It's always all the things more. There's a lot of hormones in high school. And so I think that I always truly am like very intrigued by y'all's age more than any age, because it's a very tough one. And I say all the time, like, y'all need to be nice to the teenagers. It's the hardest time, because you're still young and you don't have a toolkit yet of how to handle all this stuff, and people can just be truly unkind, and especially so when you're young, because they don't have a toolkit on how to handle it either. So I hope
Yeah.
y'all are handling it well so far. It seems like you are.
Thank you. Yeah, I think especially right now with COVID or post-COVID life and, war, there's so many additional factors. And so it's important to give people grace, but also not let them take you down. Like, of course, people have off days. You don't know what's going on, what's motivating them to act in the ways that some people act. But at the same time, that's no excuse for poor treatment of others. And it's important to have respect for yourself at first and stand up for yourself. And on the note of teenagers and teenagehood, what is one piece of advice that you have for your teenage self, if you could talk to her?
Chill out. I was so serious and so concerned about being perfect in my future. I was obsessed, truly obsessive. So I would say to enjoy life more and have more fun, to be honest, is what I would tell myself. To calm down, to take a deep breath, to relax, and to have some fun. Because I didn't do much of that when I was young.
That is amazing
That's
advice.
very beautiful advice. And I think that a lot of times, we can get really stressed that, if I'm not working on something, I'm not studying, or I'm not doing this or that, I'm not being proactive. But, it's also like we're still teenagers, and it's important to enjoy life and live life to its fullest.
Exactly.
I say this to college kids as well. I'm like, you can never act like this again. You get like a hall pass in high school and college. You're supposed to be making mistakes. You're supposed to be learning big things in big ways. You're supposed to fall on your face and, experiment. That's the whole point of being young. Because when you get to be 20s and 30s, it's not cute to be making these really ridiculous mistakes. And it is not the time to be buck wild having fun when you're supposed to be hunkering down and working hard. So do it. Have fun. Be responsible, be safe. I'm not saying that, but this is the time that you're supposed to be living life and enjoying it. You have people helping you literally financially and everything. You don't have bills, none of that. This is the time that you're truly supposed to be enjoying your life and building relationships and figuring it out and testing things so much so that when you get to the place where it's time to get serious, you've made the right decision because you've tested all the other ones. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I love it. I love it so much. Do you have anything exciting coming up, events, releases, anything like that?
Yes, I do have. My second book comes out September 10th. It's called Southern Get-Togethers. I'm really excited about that, and I'm currently working on writing the third book. And yeah, there's definitely more TV happening, all coming, lots of TV happening. So tune in on Food Network. You see me there, as well as follow me on social media and stay tuned with everything going on there as well.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Yes, we'll definitely be looking forward to getting your upcoming book and tuning into Food Network. Is there anywhere specific where our audience can find you? You mentioned Instagram. Anywhere else?
The best, I'll literally say that's the best thing about Instagram is it's like our business card. Everything you need to know, you can find on one place now. It's Kelsey Barnard Clark. It's just my full name on Instagram. And then you can follow my restaurants are linked there as well. So yeah.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
Those will be definitely linked in the show notes, so anyone who's listening right now can easily access it. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness. And thank you so much to Kelsey for coming on.
I think that everything she said resonated so much. I felt like I had a lot in common with Kelsey. I also love waking up early. I could relate to a lot of the things that she mentioned. And I mean, I love cooking too, and especially eating the things
I think I love doing more sweeter things, but I think you definitely also like
the savory
cooking, like the savory things. Yes. And I think both of us have I mean, all three of us have in common the love of eating, especially after we just put that blood, sweat, and tears of making that delicious meal.
But Kelsey is truly such an icon. She's inspiring in countless different ways. Not only did she, not give up when people told her not to pursue her dreams, but she also has taken being a chef to becoming award-winning, having multiple books, companies, and she's amazing in so many ways. So Anastasia, what is your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway is that if you want to be like someone, then you need to start looking at them, looking how they act and they treat other people. And when you're in a situation, think, how would this person react? How would they treat people here? And start to mirror and act like them. And I think this is so important to start building those habits that you want and to break those habits that you don't want.
I think that one of my biggest takeaways from today is be open to learning constantly. There is so much we don't know. Just when you think you know something, there's probably at least 10 different more things to learn about. Our world is so vast and full of information, and luckily we live in an era where we can Google things, watch a TikTok or a YouTube video, and learn more. And there's so many people out there with unique experiences. So just never think that you've learned it all, because there's always more to learn, even on topics that we're really familiar with.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, please leave us a 5-star review from wherever you're listening. It really helps us out and we really appreciate it.
Also, be sure to join our happiness family by following this podcast on whichever platform you're listening on. It really helps us out and it's completely free.
See you next time!